Edgar Cayce taught us that life doesn't end with the death of the body. It continues, flowing like a river into an infinite ocean, where every drop carries memories, feelings, and bonds of love. But how many of us, trapped in the pain of loss, ask ourselves, do my loved ones still feel me? Do they know that I visit them in the cemetery? This question echoes in the hearts of many. And today we're going to reflect on the true connection that transcends matter. It's not about where we are physically, but what we carry in our souls. The truth is that love is an invisible link that can never be broken. Since ancient times, humanity has found in rituals a way of honoring the departed. Cemeteries have become places of memory and respect, but Edgar Cayce reminds us that the spiritual presence is not restricted to cold stone tombstones. The spirit frees itself, continues its journey, and remains by our side whenever we allow nostalgia to be expressed in prayer and sincere love. This is why many people report feeling the presence of their loved ones at the most unexpected moments. A gentle breeze, a comforting dream, a butterfly gently landing on their hands. These are signs, subtle expressions that we are never alone. However, mourning is a personal and unique process. Some people find comfort in visiting the cemetery. Others can't face this experience without a crushing weight on their hearts. And Edgar Cayce, in his immense wisdom, always emphasized, there is no right or wrong way to deal with longing. What is important is the love we cultivate in our intimacy, because that is what truly reaches those who have left. If you feel guilty about not being able to visit a grave, remember, your loved one is not a prisoner there. They feel your sincere prayer, your affectionate remembrance, and your desire to meet again. The real meeting takes place in the harmony of feelings, not in a physical place. Now, I invite you to reflect deeply. To what extent have we been carrying a grief that prevents us from moving on? To what extent are we attaching ourselves to a specific place, forgetting that true connection is made up of thoughts and energy? Our loved ones want to see us well, to see us evolve, to see us smile again. They don't want us to be chained to suffering. So today is the day to free yourself from pain and understand that death is just a change of address. Love is immortal, and with every prayer, every positive thought, we build a luminous bridge that unites us forever. Let's explore this teaching by Edgar together and find peace for our souls. Imagine that, for a brief moment, you could cross the veil that separates this world from the next. What would you see? What would you feel? Where would your emotions, your thoughts, your bonds of love go? These questions have haunted and fascinated humanity since the dawn of time, because we carry within us a deep desire for permanence. Death, which for many is an end, for others is just the beginning of an invisible but real journey. Many believe that the physical is all we have, but what if what we call reality is only a fraction of what really exists? Great mystics, spiritual scholars, and even scientists have already suggested that consciousness does not depend on the body to exist. Edgar, in his psychographed messages, revealed that life continues, that the soul transcends matter and finds new purposes in more subtle spheres. If this possibility exists, then we are not truly alone. Those who have departed haven't left us, they've just changed planes. But what awaits us on the other side? Is it a heavenly field of light or a dimension of learning and evolution? Reports of near-death experiences and mediumistic sessions point to a complex and multifaceted reality, where the spirit carries with it the unfinished learning and challenges of earthly life. Some people describe emotional reunions with deceased relatives, while others report the presence of spiritual mentors who help them cross over. And if you were to leave today, would you be prepared for what you would find? Our culture tends to fear death, as if it were a cruel and final entity. But what if, instead of an end, it was a return? Edgar Cayce taught that when the spirit leaves the body, it returns to its true home, where existence reveals itself in forms we don't yet understand. Fear of the unknown is natural, but spirituality invites us to reflect. If death is a gateway to a new state of consciousness, shouldn't we prepare for it like someone preparing for a great journey? Throughout history, various religions and spiritual traditions have shared visions of life after death. The Egyptians built pyramids to guide their pharaohs as they crossed over into the next world. Hindus believe in reincarnation as a cycle of learning and redemption. Christianity speaks of a paradise of peace and reunions. These beliefs have one thing in common. None of them claims that consciousness simply fades away. On the contrary, they all suggest a continuity, a next chapter. Perhaps the greatest reflection we can make is not about what awaits us after death, but about how we are living now. If existence doesn't end, but is transformed, every thought, every emotion, and every action we cultivate here will be carried forward. Edgar Cayce said that love is the passport to the higher dimensions. What have we done with the time we have left? What have we left as a legacy for our own eternal journey? After all, if death is not an end, but a transition, we need to look at life through new eyes. Every day lived with love and purpose is a step forward in spiritual evolution. Are you ready for this journey? Open your mind, reflect on the signs that spirituality sends us, and remember, death is not darkness, but an invitation to light. Imagine you are walking through a cemetery on a quiet afternoon. The wind blows gently through the trees. The gravestones stand as silent witnesses to the passage of time. You feel a chill on your skin and ask yourself, what does this place really mean? Are the dead there, waiting for us to visit? Or are cemeteries just spaces of memory erected to comfort the living? These questions have echoed in the heart of humanity since time immemorial, and each culture has found its own answer to them. For some, the cemetery is a shrine of remembrance, a place where we can feel closer to the departed. We leave flowers, light candles, murmur prayers. We feel that somehow our energy reaches those who no longer walk among us. But to what extent does this connection depend on physical space? Edgar taught us that spirits are not tied to their graves, but are linked to the vibrations of love that we emit to them, regardless of where we are. What if the cemetery is more for the living than the dead? After all, what we really find in these spaces are the echoes of our own emotions. Grief needs a tangible space to manifest itself, a place that represents a meeting point between the past and the present. This is why so many cultures, from the ancient Egyptians to modern civilizations, have invested so much in the construction of funerary monuments. The cemetery becomes a space of transition where nostalgia finds its place of expression. However, there are also those who avoid cemeteries. For them, visiting a grave is an unbearable burden, a constant reminder of the pain of loss. But does this absence mean less love? Edgar comforts us with his words. It is not the tombstone that holds the essence of the one we love, but our sincere thoughts and prayers. If the spirit continues its journey on higher planes, we shouldn't cling to the idea that it is waiting for us there. The real homage takes place in the heart. For many, death is a frightening mystery, but what if we see it as a passage? What if the cemetery is just a landmark, a sign for the living to reflect on the cycle of life? Many reports indicate that spirits try to communicate through subtle signs, an unexpected breeze, a bird landing nearby, a familiar scent in the air. Isn't this a delicate way of reminding us that love continues, even beyond death? Perhaps it's time to reformulate our relationship with these sacred spaces. The cemetery can be a symbolic meeting point, a place to reflect on our own mortality and the importance of treasuring each day alongside those we love. But the real link with the departed is not in the tombstones and epitaphs, but in the way we keep their legacy alive. Now I ask you, what do we do in life to ensure that we are remembered? How do we honor the departed through our actions, and not just in occasional visits to the cemetery? Edgar Cayce taught us that the best way to honor a loved one is by spreading the good they represented. The cemetery can be a starting point for this reflection, but the real connection is made through gestures, memories, and love shared every day. Grief is a silent labyrinth where many emotions intertwine, but none is as relentless as guilt. How many times have you asked yourself if you could have done something differently? If you should have said, "I love you" more, or spent more time with the person who has gone? This pain creeps into the mind like a persistent shadow, making mourning even more challenging. But the truth that few dare to face is that guilt is often an illusion, created by love, not lived out the way we wanted. What if I told you that the departed don't want us trapped in this suffering? Edgar Cayce, in his wisdom, taught us that the spirits of those we love want our peace, not our condemnation. The guilt we feel doesn't help those who have gone, nor ourselves. If you could meet up again with someone who has gone, do you think they would want to see you consumed by regrets? Or would you prefer to see them honoring your memory by living with more love and purpose? Perhaps guilt is a sign that we are trying to hold on to the past, but death reminds us that life is ephemeral and therefore precious. Instead of carrying the weight of what-ifs, why not turn this pain into learning? If you feel you should have shown more love, then do it now with those who are still by your side. If you think you could have been a better person, use this reflection to evolve. The real mistake is to allow guilt to paralyze you and prevent you from growing. Many people avoid talking about bereavement for fear of stirring up painful emotions. But what happens when we don't give ourselves space to process our pain? It turns into silence, and that silence can become an abyss. Guilt grows in this vacuum, whispering that we failed, that we weren't good enough. But the truth is that love is not measured by a last gesture or word spoken before parting. Love is an accumulation of instants, of invisible connections that continue to exist beyond physical life. You may be asking yourself, but how do I get rid of this guilt? The answer lies in compassion, both for the departed and for yourself. Forgive yourself for the mistakes you believe you have made. Also forgive those who have gone, if there are any unresolved issues. Many people don't realize that the energy of guilt can be a burden on both sides, interfering with the peace of the discarnate. Edgar said that sincere prayer is a link that allows us to transform suffering into peace. Speak to the departed in thought. Send them love and gratitude. This energy will reach them. Make no mistake, mourning will never disappear completely. It is a reminder of the importance of the bonds we create. But what you do with this pain is up to you. You can allow guilt to trap you in a cycle of suffering, or you can choose to reframe this experience and grow. Remember, the person who left wants your happiness, not your emotional torture. Now, I invite you to reflect. What can you do today to transform this guilt into love? Who is still by your side and needs to hear your words of affection? What can you change about your own journey to ensure that, in the future, you look back with no regrets? Life is short, but the love we cultivate spans time. Choose to live it to the full, without allowing guilt to dim its light. Have you ever had the feeling that something invisible was trying to communicate with you? Perhaps a butterfly that lands delicately next to you in a moment of sadness, a familiar scent that appears in the air without explanation, or a dream so real that you wake up with your heart pounding with emotion. Many dismiss these experiences as coincidences, but what if they are much more than that? What if these signs are subtle attempts by the spirit world to remind us that we are never alone? Edgar Cayce taught us that the bonds of love are never broken, and that those who have departed continue to accompany us, sending messages through small manifestations that can go unnoticed by inattentive eyes. The spirit world doesn't communicate in the traditional way, with words and gestures that we know. It expresses itself through symbols, sensations, and synchronicities, which, when observed carefully, become evidence that is impossible to ignore. Dreams are one of the most common forms of spiritual contact. Many people report encounters with loved ones during their sleep, describing conversations and sensations that bring inexplicable peace and comfort. Is this just imagination, or a reunion allowed by the invisible bonds that transcend matter? The truth is that in the spiritual world, intention and energy are the most powerful means of communication. But spiritual signals don't always come in the way we expect. How many times have you thought intensely about someone who has passed away and suddenly felt an inexplicable chill, or noticed a meaningful song playing on the radio? Many believe that these are just coincidences, but in Spiritism, we learn that there is no such thing as chance. These manifestations are a silent response to our emotional call. After all, if love has no barriers, why should communication between dimensions? However, in order to perceive spiritual signs, we need to develop our inner listening skills. Modern life surrounds us with constant noise, distracting us from the subtle messages that the universe sends. Edgar used to say that prayer and meditation are powerful ways to strengthen our spiritual perception. When we quieten our minds and open our hearts, we become more receptive to these whispers from the invisible world. Whether through sudden intuitions, chills that envelop us, or moments of synchronicity, the essential thing is to learn to trust what we feel. Have you been paying attention to the signs around you? How often do we ignore these manifestations for fear of believing? I invite you to open your mind and heart to the possibility that those we love continue to guide us. We are not alone. The universe speaks to us in ways that reason cannot explain, but that the soul instantly recognizes. So the next time you feel an unexpected chill, see a bird land near you, or hear a song that brings back a fond memory, ask yourself, is it just chance or a message sent with love? Perhaps the answer is already inside you, just waiting to be understood. Imagine for a moment that you walk into a room and without anyone saying a word, you feel a weight in the air. Or perhaps the opposite has happened. You approach someone and feel an inexplicable lightness, as if enveloped by an energy of peace. This is no coincidence. We are all immersed in an invisible ocean of frequencies and vibrations, where our emotions and thoughts shape the reality around us. The energetic connection is real, even if we can't see it with our physical eyes. Science has shown that everything in the universe is energy, from subatomic particles to the feelings we carry. Quantum physics suggests that we are connected in a much deeper way than we realize. But what does this mean for our daily lives? Whether we realize it or not, we influence and are influenced by the energy field of everything around us. If you constantly live with pessimism and negativity, it's no surprise that you start to feel this weight in your very essence. In the same way, when we surround ourselves with love, gratitude, and elevated thoughts, we create a frequency of harmony that resonates throughout our existence. The most thought-provoking question is, how do we strengthen our energetic connection with what we really want? Edgar taught us that attunement is the key to spiritual communication. When we raise our vibration through prayer, meditation, and positive thoughts, we become more receptive to influences from the spiritual plane. It's not just about spirituality, it's a question of inner balance. What have you been feeding yourself? Fear and doubt, or hope and faith? Our energetic connection also manifests itself in interpersonal relationships. Surely you've met someone with whom you felt an instant affinity, as if you knew them from other lives. There are also people whose presence drains us, exhausts us, without us being able to explain exactly why. This is because each of us emits a frequency, and the connections we create are a reflection of the vibrations we emanate and absorb. That's why taking care of our energy is just as important as taking care of our physical bodies. But how can we protect and strengthen this energy? The answer lies in intentionality. Everything we think, say, and do carries a vibrational charge. If we cultivate destructive thoughts and ruminate on past hurts, we are reinforcing these frequencies in our lives. On the other hand, if we choose to forgive, express gratitude, and practice acts of kindness, we are raising our energy. Small gestures, such as a sincere smile or a moment of silence to reflect, can completely transform our attunement with the world. Now, I invite you to reflect. Have you been paying attention to the energy you emanate and absorb on a daily basis? Does your environment reflect the peace you want to feel? Are your words and thoughts aligned with what you want to attract into your life? Energy is a cycle. What you cultivate within yourself is reflected in the universe around you. And if everything is interconnected, what you do today can transform what comes tomorrow. The invisible world speaks to us constantly, but we only listen when we are in tune. Choose to raise your vibration. Choose to be the light you want to find. After all, the energetic connection you build now is the bridge to everything you are yet to experience. In the end, everything is interconnected. Every thought we cultivate, every emotion we nurture, and every connection we make weaves the invisible threads that link us to the universe. If the energy we emit defines what we attract, then the choice will always be in our hands. Will we be prisoners of our own limitations or architects of a higher reality? Spirituality teaches us that we are not alone. The signs are everywhere. We just need to tune our senses to perceive them. Maybe that dream wasn't just a random illustration of the mind. Maybe that intuition was a calling. The universe is constantly whispering truths in our ears. The question is, are we ready to hear them? If you felt that this content brought you answers, or even new questions, then you're on the right track. Expanding consciousness is a process of continuous transformation. So don't stop here. Continue this journey with us by subscribing to the channel and activating notifications. This will ensure that you are always connected to deep reflections, spiritual messages, and new perspectives on life and what lies beyond. Leave a like if this content resonated with you and share it with someone who might need this message. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever had an unexplainable experience that made you believe that there is something greater guiding us? Your story could inspire others to open up to this connection. Let's together create a community of seekers, of souls who yearn to understand more, feel more, and connect more with this infinite energy that surrounds us. See you in the next video.